How would you describe the position of a fly on the ceiling? Young René Descartes asked himself that question when he was ill in his bed. He figured out that you can plot axes and use a pair of numbers that tell you where the fly is with respect to the origin, the place where the axes meet. Although this looks simple, it was quite revolutionary, and we know it today as the Cartesian coordinate system. Most likely this is a made-up story, but it highlights the power of combining pen and paper with visualization, giving us one of the best tools to improve our thinking. We have already seen this combo in action when we drew the graph. Visualizing with pen and paper helped us solve that simple problem, but there are other ways to visualize with pen and paper. Let's go through a few and we will return to many others later on. By the way, to make life a bit easier, from now on we will use the term visualization for both mental and pen and paper visualizations. Hopefully it will be clear from the context which one we are talking about. Let's start with two scientists who were really into fossils, Charles Darwin and Ross Geller. Great minds think alike, so it shouldn't be surprising that the two men used a simple yet powerful technique to think through important decisions, a pros and cons list. Let's start with Ross. He had to choose between Julie and Rachel. This is your decision. Then you simply try to list the pros of the decision on one side and the cons on the other. Ross started with the cons and quickly concluded that Rachel was the only good choice for him.
Alright, I guess you can say she's a little spoiled sometimes.
You could say that.
You know? I guess, sometimes she's a little ditzy, And I've seen her be a little too into her looks. And like Julie and I, we have a lot in common because we're both paleontologists, right? But Rachel's just a waitress.
Okay, let's do Julie. What's wrong with her?
She's not Rachel.
Why is this technique powerful? First of all, we already know that writing things down increases our cognitive capacity, so we can work with more information than in our heads. On top of that, the division into pros and cons introduces two contradicting points of view and forces us to look at our issue from both sides. Introducing new points of view in our thinking is definitely a good idea. Okay, so what did Darwin use it for? Actually, a similar thing. He had to decide whether or not to marry his cousin. Let's see what he did. If not marry, he could travel or live in London, but anyhow he would be able to work. If marry, feel duty to work for money, no collecting of books. On another day he adds, freedom to go where one liked, not forced to visit relatives. Children, constant companion, better than a dog anyhow? Someone to take care of the house. Charms of music and female chit-chat. These things good for one's health, but terrible loss of time. Perhaps quarreling, cannot read in the evenings, fatness and idleness. Finally, he concludes, it is intolerable to think of spending one's whole life like a bee, working, and nothing after all. No, won't do. And finally, marry, QED. He quickly moves on to the next question. When? Soon or late? Shall we have a look at what he came up with? The governor says soon for otherwise, but to marry late if one has children. But then it looks like he has some doubts again. But then, if I married tomorrow, there would be an infinity of trouble and expense in getting and furnishing a house. Then how should I manage all of my business if I were obliged to go every day walking with my wife? Finally he adds, poor slave, he will be worse than a Negro. Whoa, okay Charlie, maybe let's leave it here and move on. Trees and decision trees. People have been using trees for quite some time. At first in writing, but then also visually to categorize knowledge, like here. Trees were also good for genealogies. In medieval societies, trees helped to control inbreeding by showing how closely people were related to a potential spouse. But a tree can be a useful mental model as well. For example, Elon Musk likes to think about learning in terms of a knowledge tree. In a Reddit Ask Me Anything, this was his reply to the question, how do you learn so much, so fast? One bit of advice, It is important to view knowledge as a sort of a semantic tree. Make sure you understand the fundamental principles, that is the trunk and big branches, before you get into the leaves details, or there is nothing for them to hang on to. By the way, you might also need a tree to understand the Wikipedia entry on Elon's marriages, dating life and children. At one point, people realized that you can use simple tree diagrams to make better decisions, turning them into decision trees. Trees that represent decisions and their possible consequences. Let's revisit Darwin's notes. Another way to visualize his notes would be like this. A decision to marry, yes on the left, no to the right. Then for each, pros on the left and cons on the right. So again, the decision and the possible consequences. Simple. Can they help us with more complicated decisions? I shall present one recently developed concept called the decision tree, which has tremendous potential as a decision-making tool. The decision tree can clarify for management, as can no other analytical tool that I know of, the choices, risks, objectives, monetary gains, and information needs involved in an investment problem. We shall be hearing a great deal about decision trees in the years ahead. Although a novelty to most businessmen today, they will surely be in common management parlance before many more years have passed. And this was written in 1964. The author describes how the management of a chemical company could use a tree to decide whether to build a small plant or a large one to manufacture a new product. The decision tree that he comes up with is more complicated. It has some probabilities and math which we do not need to worry about for now. Trees can get even more sophisticated in some other fields like AI. We will definitely come back to some of these concepts later. For now, try sketching a decision tree yourself, maybe for your life path and possible consequences, or even something simpler, like in this definitely fake example. What's the problem? My sister socked me in the nose. Option A. Punch her lights out. Positive consequences? I will be happy. Negative? I will get in trouble. Option B. Tell on her. Positives? She will get in trouble. Negatives? I will be a tattletale. Option C. Lock her in the closet. Positives? I will never see her again. Negatives? I don't see any. Next up, another technique that most of us are familiar with, but still quite useful.
A Venn diagram? Really? You seriously expect me to make this monumental decision with colored pencils and graph paper?
You can use it for other things, but in principle, yes, that is right, Serena. Blair is using it to do just that. How does it work? Let's revisit Rose. So we have a decision to make. Rachel or Julie. Let's focus on their cons only for now. You draw a circle for each of the ladies so that the circles intersect. Then Rachel's specific cons go on the left, Julie's only cons on the right, and in the middle you would write cons that they both share. The Venn diagram can get more complicated, so it can have more circles than two. It really is quite useful, and you can find many examples in the scientific literature. You won't be surprised if I tell you that you can use it also as a mental model. Scott Adams is the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, and a very successful guy. This is what he had to say on achieving success, as presented in the book The Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. If you want an average, successful life, it doesn't take much planning. Just stay out of trouble, go to school, and apply for jobs you might like. But if you want something extraordinary, you have two paths. 1. Become the best at one specific thing. 2. Become very good, top 25% at two or more things. The first strategy is difficult, to the point of near impossibility. Few people will ever play in the NBA or make a platinum album. I don't recommend anyone even try. The second strategy is fairly easy. Everyone has at least a few areas in which they could be in the top 25% with some effort. In my case, I can draw better than most people, but I'm hardly an artist. And I'm not any funnier than the average stand-up comedian who never makes it big, but I'm funnier than most people. The magic is that few people can draw well and write jokes. It's that combination of the two that makes what I do so rare. And when you add in my business background, suddenly I had a topic that few cartoonists could hope to understand without living it. Now this sounds like a really nice model to steal.